Let's see. All right, we're live. Let's see if we get some people up in here. If not, no big deal. That's why I always figure like starting late isn't a big issue,
right?
Let's see. Talk a little bit, Pete. Let me see.
Sure. So how you doing? Anybody doing all right out there?
We'll see. Let's see. Put a couple of things up. Okay, yeah, we got some people.
All right.
Let's see. This will be able to tell us too, like how strong the connection strength is. Okay, that works for me. Good is good. Good is good. Oh, we got a couple people. Did I get the link wrong? No, you're good, man. I feel so bad because we started late. Hey guys, what's up? Joey, Taylor, Samoki Dude. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll get started. Well, welcome to I think this is the 15th episode of Let's Talk Comics, where myself and another co-host in the comic book community talk about one of the many facets of the storytelling medium, whether or not be stories, characters, adaptations. We pretty much hit it all. Tonight's a really, really cool episode. I have Pete, the owner of AJ's Comics in Colchester, Connecticut, joining me for a debate on Tom King's Batman. You guys want to let the people know where your shop is, what it's all about?
We are in Colchester, Connecticut, 167 Lebanon Ave, a little bit outside the center of town. Just take it right off the center of town. We're down there.
Huh.
And we've been in business. Overall, the store's been in business for about 16 years. We've been in this location for a little over a year and a half. We're open every day but Monday.
Yeah, you guys should definitely come check out this shop. I try to frequent here as much as I can. He hosts midnight releases like tonight. He'll be doing a midnight release for The Batman Who Laughs, which is spectacular. If you guys are thinking about picking it up, definitely go check it out. I will also shout out Detective Comics number 994. If you aren't reading Detective, if you like Batman remotely, I 100% suggest that you go check it out. And then there's Batman Damned number 2 coming out tonight. Something really cool that Pete has is a mail-in subscription service that you can check out. So if you don't have a local shop, if you do have a local shop, but they're dicks, or you just want to support an awesome small shop, definitely go check out their website, ajscomics.com. It's in the description below. And if you decide to wait until you have at least $100 worth of books, he'll ship it to you for free, which is really, really cool. And definitely give it a look. So I guess we got a little comment here. First 4 trades fucking slap, then it falls off with volume 7, says Samoki Dude. Well, I guess
so 5 and 6 are okay, and it just fell off the cliff at 7. But you didn't like that they didn't get married. Was that the thing?
We'll figure it out. And guys, definitely let me know. Make sure that you can hear us both throughout the video. If anyone's a little bit too silent, let us know, or too loud. We'll fix any settings on the mic. But you guys know that we start off every episode of Let's Talk Comics with our polls of the week, where we just talk about a book this week that we're either really anticipated or that we're anticipating reading, or a book that we've already read. Courtesy of DC, I've gotten to read a couple books early this week. Detective Comics 994 is spectacular. If you're a new Batman fan, if you're an old Batman fan, if you're trying to get into Batman, and all you need to know is his origin and his parents getting shot in an alleyway, that book is for you. Awesome story, great pacing, fantastic characterization, 10 times better than the Batman one we're about to talk about tonight, and amazing art. I'll also shout out Batman Who Laughs number 1, which we're doing the midnight release for tonight.
Looking forward to reading that.
Yeah.
Looking forward to reading Detective too. Read Detective for a long time, and I love Peter Tomasi. He's a great writer.
So good. And when it comes to Batman Who Laughs, for me, it's a real return to form for Scott Snyder. We've talked a couple times about how I've been really hot and cold about his Justice League run.
I've been totally cold.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
I like James Tinian's parts on it better, and I'm not even a James Tinian fan. But he's been nailing the Legion of Doom stories that he's been handling. The overall cosmic, galactic, earth-shattering, world-shattering stuff that they're doing in Justice League is just not really doing it for me.
No.
So Scott Snyder's take on it is falling short. I have to read it again, though. Scott Snyder is one of those writers that I found you have to read twice. You read the first time, it's like, you read it the second time, all of a sudden it just opens up the whole world. So I would like to give it a second chance. I don't know if I can, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the time.
Yeah, no, I will definitely say this Batman Who Laughs is a return to form for A, his storytelling and horror, but B, the way that he characterizes Batman. It is much more closely aligned to his original characterization in his New 52 run. It's nothing like the Batman that he's writing in Justice League. And again, I know a lot of people will criticize me and say, well, hey, Batman's doesn't play as big a role in the story as he would in a Batman book. That's not my issue. I don't think that's relevant to how he's characterizing the character, like the forced quips. And it doesn't feel authentic. And he really gets it here. You do get a couple quips and that cool dynamic between him and Alfred, but overall the story is really interesting. And we'll be talking about it later this week on our first episode of Comics Insider. But what would you say is your pull of the week? Would it be Detective or Batman Who Laughs or something else entirely?
Let's see, that didn't come out. I'm trying to think. I would think Batman Who Laughs would definitely be right up there with Batman Damned as most anticipated. I think Batman Damned #1, Bat Wang aside, is an absolutely classic story with fantastic art.
And you don't even like Brian Azzarello.
And I don't even like Brian Azzarello doing Batman. I did not like his first run on Batman way back in the 600s.
Yeah.
Broken City. Not my favorite.
Something we disagree on again.
But this second time around, much better.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So I can't disagree with that statement. I think.
But I would still put Detective up there too. Yeah, I haven't looked this forward to a detective book in a long time.
Awesome. So we're gonna get this debate underway. Just going back and forth. I will say also too. So Taylor in the chat says that Scott gets a little bit too big for him at times. I agree. I think that Scott Snyder does much better when he has a confined playground or a sandbox. When he's given the entire universe, I don't think he quite knows what to do. And
just take Batman Metal Dark Knight.
Yeah, no, it's blue.
For example, that's just.
And then Comic Man Jake, he says he's dropping Scott Snyder Justice League. That's sorry to say. I still hold out hope. I'll give him a chance.
I'm not dropping it, but.
I gave Tom King 60 issues. So if I can give this,
you should give him 105 issues, which you should give him.
Hey,
he's only got 45 to go.
If you do your job right and change. By the way,
I don't know about that.
By the way, one of the I guess consequences of this debate. So you guys in the chat, there's a poll somewhere like up here, whatever direction it's oriented, for you to answer A, whether or not you like the run, or B, who you think wins the debate. But if I am able to change his mind on the matter, I get some really cool Dark Knight Returns pop figures. If he wins, I have to pick up the rest of the entire Tom King Batman run at his shop. So it'll be really, really interesting. And I just figured it was a fun thing to add into the debate, give it a little bit more stake.
Yep.
Also, we're going to be having a couple hard drinks tonight to get the blood flowing. Also, Taylor says he thinks Tynion has kind of surpassed Snyder in some aspects. I think that Tynion's better at writing ensemble. Justice League Dark, I think, has been excellent so far as a whole.
Okay.
And I will also agree that generally speaking, Tynion's issues of Justice League tend to be better than Scott's.
Yeah. Well, that obviously, because I said it already, so I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm not a Tynion fan. I'm just not. I have read so much of him that I'm like, he starts off great, can't end it well. There's like so many writers. He's not the only one.
Yeah, that's what Scott's well known for.
Tynion's first arc on Detective was fabulous, all the way through, beginning to end. Fantastic. After that, it kind of got lackluster.
Yeah.
He had moments, but never really cemented a good footing for me, all the way through. So I do think his Justice League Dark has been fairly well so far. I'm pleased with it. A lot more than I was with Justice League Odyssey's first 2 issues.
Agreed.
So.
And then Joseph's book says he's digging Justice League. I'm glad you like it, man. Basically the point that we're trying to get across in this debate is that comic book fans can have discourse, they can disagree, and it can be civil, and it's okay. It's totally fine, because
as long as you like Tom King's Batman.
Well, do I have news for you? So we'll get this started. I guess we'll cheers to kick off this debate. And since we're in your house, I'll let you start.
Wow.
Let's why do you think, let's give a general overview. Why do you think Tom King's Batman run is good, and why should people be reading it?
Tom King gets Batman. He gets him. He gets the core. He gets the finer points. He knows what makes Batman tick. He gets the ensemble cast. He gets Alfred. He gets his place. He knows how to treat Catwoman. Excuse me.
Like a lady.
I just read the book, and every time I read it, I'm just like, certain moments, I'm like, this is Batman. This is quintessential Batman, without a doubt. From the times that he's sitting with Alfred and talking to him, and Alfred's talking to him, the moments like in Batman 55, which was the one shot with Bruce and Dick Grayson, when Dick was younger, and then interspersed with him as Nightwing. It was a fabulous issue all the way through. Yeah. Fantastic. And just the references and the way he gets Nightwing, and the lightheartedness with Dick Grayson, as opposed to the serious temperament of Bruce Wayne, and how he's talking early on in the series when he's talking to Gotham Girl. I believe it was it was right after I Am Bane, when he saved her. And he's like, he just says, I do this because I have to do it. I try and I fail, but I'm going to keep doing it. And he just gets it. There's just moments when I'm reading it. Every time I'm reading it, I'm like, yeah, that's right. I mean, that's so good. There were very few moments, and I can count them on one hand.
I can probably count them on 3.
Yeah, you probably could. But you'd be wrong.
Debatable.
Yes, well, that's what we're here for.
So I think that all of the positives, or nearly all the positives that you brought up about his Batman run, existed in the first 3 volumes, which were fine. I didn't dislike the first 3 volumes. I had problems with it. It didn't live up to what I'd expected. But aside from that, I think that Tom King, and this is the overarching issue that I've had with Tom King writing superheroes. I like him on Mr. Miracle. I like him on Sheriff of Babylon. I like him on Vision, where he can mold the characters.
Yeah.
When you play with someone like Batman, for me, and you're playing with something that A, is so popular, B, has 80 years of continuity, and C, is told in a periodical format, you need to have a certain respect and a certain withholding of continuity and characterization. And one of the things that I was actually talking to a buddy of mine off screen about earlier was that if you look at, for example, year 1 into Long Halloween, you can very much tell it's 2 different writers, right? Frank Miller and Jeff Loeb. But the 2 of them have a very central understanding of some core aspects to Batman.
Sure.
Right? He's damaged. He's trying to find justice for what happened to his family so that no one ever feels that way again. He's pensive. He's always trying to improve his game. And it's always trying to find the best option possible to resolve a situation. They're even, and you can tell that there are stylistic differences between the two writers. So I'm not saying that I want every Batman story to write Batman the same. Long Halloween is detective driven. Year One is very much origin story, getting started, grounding yourself, but you can very much tell it's the same character. 90% of the time when Tom King writes Batman, I don't feel like it's Batman.
I don't see how.
So when you really get into it, I think that Tom, and another big issue with Tom King's Batman overall is that he often has a really profound point to make about humanity, trauma, and using Batman as a lens to explore that because of his trauma, deeply seated in his childhood, leading into dealing with psychopaths on a night-to-night basis.
Sure.
But he sacrifices the character for me. I think that, just going into first of all, the dialogue. He's never consistent on Batman's dialogue. It's either really choppy, monosyllabic Batman that feels like he can't articulate himself very well, or it's Shakespearean Batman who has this poetic point to make.
The Shakespearean points that I read in Batman were not made by Batman. Like there are moments in there where there's Shakespearean soliloquies or whatever, and Penguin was the one that was actually spouting that off. It's in the Batman comic, yes, but I didn't see Batman actually doing that. Yeah, he to me, Batman has always been one that's not one of very many words. Okay, he might not have to go all the time
or Batcat. I love you. Period.
That's look. See, the thing is, here's the thing with Batman when he's with Catwoman, he's changed. He is a changed person. He has now got something else going for him. He's got love, which he's never really had before. Not that type of love, and it'll change a person. It absolutely will. And he has something else now that is in his life. And I'm not saying it's not sidelining him, but he's thinking about things differently, especially and it was just before the wedding, and it was issue 48, I believe, into 49, when Joker is in the church. And right at the end of the issue, Catwoman is saying, she's just basically saying what Batman said to her, don't go into church. You don't go anywhere near the Joker. You can't, he's too psychotic. You can't handle him. And then of course she hears a shot go off and she's like, screw this, I'm going in. And then the whole issue was just her against the Joker.
So with that, right,
fantastic.
Between the Joker blowing up the church and those two issues together, I have a lot of problems. It's implied that Batman watched him kill all of those people and didn't act.
No. Look in the issue and you will see Joker kills all those people, and then Batman comes crashing through the cathedral window. Not that he watched it. Maybe he got there a little too late. He got there too late.
I mean, he's perched outside watching through the window. But besides that point, even with that being said, so the profound point that Tom King tries to make here is that Batman values life no matter whose life it is. But it should never make him stupid. He with the entire dialogue that he has with Catwoman about how dangerous and unpredictable the Joker is, he takes the time. By the way, there's no dialogue. He doesn't say anything,
right,
alluding to robotic Batman. He says nothing, naively kneels down to pray with the Joker.
Did not naively kneel down to pray with the Joker. Joker basically, he just killed people right in front of Batman too after he broke in. He's like, oh, I'm taking this person as hostage. And then while he's like, he starts talking and he's like, oh, if I do something wrong or whatever, you move an inch, boom. Next thing you know, he kills that guy right in front of Batman. And then Batman's going to come right after him. And he's like, wait a minute. He's fighting around with him for a little bit. And he's like, oh, I need another hostage. Oh, who? Oh, so Batman. So he points the gun right at him and shoots him in the cowl, which then, of course, was armored. And Batman fought him for a little bit more. And Joker's like, all these dead people, I need you to wake up. I need somebody to be a hostage. Oh, wait, I've got one, me. And points the gun right here. and says, you kneel down with me and pray with me, or so help me, I will kill myself. And because Batman values life of everyone, he actually kneels down next to him.
So are we totally going to ignore that he's the smartest man in the DC universe, a detective and a forward thinker, rather than making a plan, executing a plan, likely sneaking up on the Joker?
Joker's psychotic.
So he can't sneak up on the Joker?
He's off bounds.
But it doesn't mean out of bounds. It doesn't mean that the Batman, you would think the forward thinking Batman who has plans for everything couldn't even think enough on his feet to sneak into the church, incapacitate the Joker, and forego the entire experience.
Why would I want to read that story?
But
why would the Joker even be a villain at that point?
That's the point.
It's like, hey, you know what? Batman beat him.
It null and voids the entire concept of those two issues.
Well, then it null and voids the whole Joker for the past 80 years, because what are you doing? I mean, you could just sit there and sneak around him, and there you go. He's done.
Not entirely.
Why?
Because in
Joker fish. I mean, how could he not anticipate Joker fish?
In better done Joker stories, for example, like the beginning of the Death of the Family, there's an ultimatum. Batman has to make his appearance on top of the bridge, or else Joker does something horrible. Batman does not have to make a physical appearance. Nothing will be triggered by sneaking into the church and incapacitating the Joker. So are we just going to ignore the fact, because again, Tom King has a profound point to make about how Batman values life and humanity because of the way he lost his parents, that he's an idiot?
No, he's not an idiot.
It certainly makes him feel like an idiot.
I disagree. I respectfully disagree. I don't see that as him being an idiot. See, the thing is, it's at the ultimate end of the day, it's storytelling. And he's telling a story about the Joker and the Batman. And again, with respect to your comments, I don't really want to read a story about how Batman like stealthily snuck around and like knocked Joker out in the head, and then okay, now he's going back to Arkham for the millionth time.
My point at that though was, if Tom King really took the time to write a Batman story rather than a trauma story molding Batman into his vision of trauma, he could have written a story with a compromise of the two that had sensible plotting and narrative while also establishing that same point. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to try to stay away from comparing him to other writers because it's not fair.
Right.
But at the same time, you would think that, again, stressing that you have to pay attention to the character, right? And how this character has been established, especially in recent years. Obviously, you can't keep in touch with everything that's existed over the last 80 years.
Right.
You would think that, like, my issue is if you would come up with a different story where the plot holes for me weren't so easy to pick out, it'd be fine. I would have been fine with it. I think that, again, I agree with the point he has to make in the way that Batman values life. He's almost died, God, hundreds of times, probably thousands in continuity, trying to save his villains. But to me, that entire situation could have been avoided by simple problem solving. And Batman is much more than a simple problem solver. So I think that there's such an issue with that for me, no pun intended. And again, I feel like that's one of the situations where he sacrifices a character to make a point.
Okay, I disagree.
And then, so what the next arc was what, the Poison Ivy arc?
Well,
wedding.
The next arc was the wedding.
So let's talk the wedding. I think the wedding had one really great scene in it, and I think probably think that it's the same scene, and it's.
I doubt we're thinking the same thing, because I thought it was great the whole way through.
I think the only good scene was his moment with Alfred, and it
was fantastic. It was
fantastic,
the best scene.
But it's predicated on him totally ignoring A, what he set up prior, B, what the wedding prelude issues that I bought every copy of.
That's written by Tim Seeley and totally.
But you would think, knowing that they existed, knowing that this is the lead up, that there would have been some collaboration between the writers or Tom King to include it. I think that's more editorial baloney. Editorial was just like, hey, we're going to make this a whole big, huge event thing. And well, how are we going to expand that? Oh, I know. Let's do 5 one-shots with all the different heroes and villains and tie that all in.
which the only decent one, well, I shouldn't say that. The only very good one was the last one with Harley Quinn and the Joker, just because it led right up to the Joker being there at the church and explained, like, why the hell he got to the friggin' church. The other issues, I mean, the Ra's al Ghul Robin one was a good one.
It was fine. It had a pretty big plot hole, in my opinion. But
it was good. It was decent.
It was fine.
I mean, none of them were fantastic.
Agreed. Yeah. It's Tim Seeley.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know how I feel about Tim Seeley, too, which, you know, again, he's a writer, hey. But, I mean, what he writes is not my cup of tea.
But what I'm going into with I think there were a lot of flaws with issue 50. If I read a comic book and immediately I don't get some sort of positive reaction, I eventually I don't end up liking it. And I reread, okay. I mean, I went to the Midnight Release for that.
Yeah.
And I reread that book maybe 3 times that night. And there were things that I valued. Wow. But looking into that scene with Alfred, it's entirely predicated on poor foresight. I mean, first of all, he sets up prior, right, that Batman is learning to include the family, include people outside of the Bat family, open them up into this larger network of more personal relationships rather than business, right? We have that awesome 2-issue side story with the double date, him and Selina, Clark and Lois. And he pretty much asks Superman to be his best man.
What? I don't even remember that. I just read the 2 issues. I don't remember him saying that.
And then there's also the fact that I don't understand the logic behind building this up, building Batman's network of relationships. We have, you know, him. I mean, a little bit more vaguely that issue where he's in that Bat Burger restaurant with the kids. There's that was a decent issue.
I have
that. There was the story.
Like 16 or something.
There was the story where he goes to. Well, it wasn't Kandahar. It was somewhere in the.
No, it was Kandahar. It was. Where the heck was it?
This man has like 6 double-sided pages.
Right, there it is. Kandak or some stupid country. Yeah.
Was it Kandak?
Yeah, here it is. Where the hell is it? Get back to yeah, that was that one. Settle after transition. See, I'm all over the place.
All right. So point being,
whatever.
They go somewhere out in the East and
Middle East.
Yeah, the Middle East. And one of the driving thematics here is Batman being more open with Damian and Dick towards the end, right? He like Damian opens up to Selina. There's some sort of foundation for a relationship,
right?
Like stepmother, son. Dick already has some sort of pre-existing relationship with Selina.
Oh, sure.
And so
that's predicated on a history. That's not Tom King didn't really do anything with Selina and Dick at all.
Well, but like generally,
but you're right. I mean, the history of the characters, yes, they have
and like I was saying before, he already starts driving home this more familiar relationship with Clark and Lois, bringing them in, being more open with them, his high praise. So you would think that going into this, that he wouldn't just decide that one random night we were going to expose our secret identities on random rooftops, all on the shoulders of a plastered judge, because he wouldn't remember that he just married the richest man, likely on the East Coast.
Yeah, after like 6 drinks.
To a known criminal.
Yep. Wouldn't remember. You're okay. I'll give you that one. I will absolutely give you that one. But at the same time, like they said, he'll be so plastered and wasted.
But is Batman the smartest, arguably the smartest man in the DC universe, going to hinge his entire secret identity, his operation, the safety of his family on a plastered judge? A. B. Are you telling me that just being more that he knows no one in the superhero community that could wed him, or even Alfred? With everything Alfred does, you would think that Alfred would be ordained.
Justice of peace.
Yeah, you would think Alfred would be ordained in some way.
Yeah, but he needed Alfred to be his best man.
They also but that's predicated on bad writing. Again, that's predicated on knowing that we're totally ignoring the fact that they planned a wedding, that they were telling people about the wedding.
Yeah, then it was a last minute, like they were just like Batman's just like, hey, you know what? Let's get married right now.
And that again, they're on rooftops.
Yeah. And let's do it right here on a friggin' rooftop. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah. And it's also like, for example, that also ties into Batman and Catwoman having sex on top of a roof with the masks off, the suits on. Like, what?
It's a cool scene.
It's yeah.
Come on, deny it.
See, off camera, it's kind of dumb. So like, cool. You wanna like? I think it's poor writing, and like I'm fine with plot twists, right? Because
I don't see that as a plot twist.
Well, okay, I'm fine with something straying from what the story's being led toward, right? You would be led to believe that with all the opening up that Bruce is doing, that there would be an actual wedding, whether or not it be small. There would be an actual wedding with the boys, with the Bat family, maybe Clark and Lois.
It was basically, you know what? They were going to plan it.
They already had it planned.
But then they decided at the last minute, hey, you know what? Let's elope.
And then
that's what they decided. They're not the first people to have done that.
Let's also talk about, so one of the reoccurring, I guess, devices that Tom King uses, and I thought it was charming at first, but eventually got really tired of it.
Don't say the 9-panel.
No. Was that's Heroes in Crisis. That's a story for another time. Was that Batman remembers them meeting from his 30s origin. She remembers year one.
Right.
But by the fact that Holly exists in continuity, is Batman technically insane? Because that means that means year one happened. But it just
he's just wrong.
I found it charming at first, and it doesn't make sense anymore because Holly, being a huge factor in the run overall, pretty much says like Batman's insane. I mean, Batman. What is it? If someone can correct me,
Batman's insane.
If someone can correct me in the chat, Batman either has like an eidetic or a photographic memory. You're telling me?
No, Batgirl has an eidetic.
But he has some. Yeah, but he has something along those lines. It's either photographic or eidetic because they're two different things.
They are.
I don't remember which, but he has one of the two.
Well, he definitely does not have an eidetic.
You're telling me for the sake of Tom King making this cutesy, quirky little point, that we're sacrificing.
You have to remember they're in love. Oh, everything changes when you're in love. It does. I'm sorry, but it does. It's not the same. He is not the same person. Look at him at 51. Look at him in issue 51. He goes off the friggin' rails.
Which makes sense.
The living horse shit out of Mr. Friggin' Freeze.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, he's done.
I get it, because he's pissed off. He's hurt. He is hurt. She friggin' just left him. Now, he's not seeing that she left him because she feels that she's destroying him by staying with him. She is taking away his true identity of Batman if she stays with him. So she's leaving, and that's killing him.
Can we also point out that like the whole premise behind Selina leaving him because she doesn't think that he can operate as Batman is totally flawed? Because the entire run, nearly the entire run, their relationship is growing stronger and stronger, and Batman doesn't lose a step.
Right.
So what leads her to believe, besides some really coy, I guess, convincing by Holly Robinson?
But it was before that. Because she was the second person that said that. The first one was the Joker in the church. Said the exact same thing. But it's the
Joker. Are you going to take what the Joker says to heart?
No, probably not. But, she's just like, what, that was her first one. Okay, she maybe didn't take it to heart, but she heard it.
I don't think that's.
Then Holly reiterates it, and now she feels Holly's her best friend. She grew up with her. She raised her. It wasn't like some random bitch she just met off the street.
Who also framed her for murder.
Well, no.
Oh, okay, Selina took the fall,
took the rap.
But she ran.
Yes, true. She ran, and then Catwoman went to get her back and said, "Look, I need your help. You got to do this. What are you doing?"
I feel like it's completely illogical. And I get love is illogical.
Love is totally illogical.
But it's nonsensical. Beyond illogical, it is totally nonsensical.
Batman will do things that contradict what he would normally do as a person just through love. Love will change.
Well, I mean, using pre-existing stories, first of all, you remember what was it, the Black Glove with Jezebel Jet?
Don't pull that shit.
The whole time he falls completely.
Let's throw out Silver St. Cloud from Detective in the 480s.
But this is still like what I'm talking about is still modern comics. It's not Golden Age. It's not Silver Age.
Well, that's not Golden either. Okay, that might be Silver.
It's not. Let's put it this way.
Jezebel Jet was a horrible character.
It's within the last like 15 years, which again tonally is the same. General
and I did not like that bit by Scott Snyder with Jezebel Jet. I didn't like that.
You mean Grant Morrison?
That was Grant Morrison. Oh, was it? Oh, there you go. I didn't like that by
during
Grant
the Black
Morrison.
Well, even in Hush, where when Bruce's and Selena's relationship starts budding, the whole time, by the end of it, you find out that he was always skeptical because he's Batman. And I get that the arc is about him opening up to Selena, but
I believe Tom King said that too.
I don't think that with the Batman that he writes, right? If you look at like what he's doing in Heroes in Crisis, he still fears the Justice League enough to not tell them that he has kryptonite on him. That you would like,
and that scene alone, which was great, while terrible, it was a great scene, it was a fantastic scene.
Terrible,
fantastic scene. Was totally implausible because Batman is not going to let Harley Quinn take advantage.
Yes, that's implausible.
But it was still fantastic to look at. And it was just like, no.
But what I'm getting at with that is you're telling me that he still doesn't trust the Justice League, Superman, namely like one of his closest friends, whom gave him the kryptonite, but he will totally have no skeptical thought in his mind regarding Selena.
But it's not the same. Well, no, right. Yeah, it won't. Because it's not the same. Just digressing again from that point, it's not the same Superman.
Well, I'm talking Batman.
Yes, I understand that. But that Batman, Batman has always the same Batman.
Remember Superman Reborn?
Yes, but you remember Superman, the New 52. Yeah. Then he dies at the end.
But they don't remember him anymore.
But Batman does.
New 52 Superman?
Batman remembers that this Superman is not the exact same Superman as they had in the New 52.
Not in Reborn. No, remember in Reborn they merged it so that... Did you read Superman Reborn?
I read it all. Shut up.
Right.
No.
Right. So, but point being, remember they merged it? They took like 2 parts of Hyper Time, all of which surrounding Superman, merged it in the New 52. So now in continuity, for example, Batman was there to deliver John. Or he was guarding the Fortress of Solitude when Wonder Woman helped to deliver John Kent. Therefore, there is a merging of the pre-New 52 Superman continuity with the modern Rebirth continuity. So, as far as Batman remembers now, that's been the same Superman the whole time. New 52 Superman doesn't exist to anybody except for us and beings outside of the multiverse. So, all that being said, I don't find it plausible that he writes the same Batman that doubts his closest friend, whom gave him the kryptonite, and is just playing that petty shenanigans. I'm trying not to swear as much on camera. But has no I would understand if he got burned by Selena, but if completely
he did get burned by Selena now,
right? But completely leaving himself open to that in every single facet possible. It's not. You're writing the same character. There's no consistency here. There should have been some level of skepticism to Batman. I mean, it's Selena Kyle. She's tricked him countless times in the past.
Well, yeah, and Tom King's actually showed that too.
Right. He acknowledges that.
Yes, he does. When she first broke in, the scene, and it was Batman Annual 2, yes, which was fantastic.
Which is technically not in continuity, by the way.
It doesn't matter. It's a fantastic issue. I don't care. Yeah, because it's Earth 2 Batman.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's still in continuity.
We think it's Earth 2 Batman.
Right. It's Earth 2 Batman.
Well, yeah.
It was still fantastic.
No, it was fine. It was fine. But point being is that the Batman in continuity, it doesn't make sense for him to have that level of skepticism versus totally leaving himself unopened or unarmed, I guess.
You have to you have to take all that and put it aside when it comes to Selena because he's in love with her.
Another good one. Taylor Pechter brings up Vesper Fairchild.
Vesper freaking Fairchild. Really? Come on. No.
But I mean, I'm not even going to bring up, and I know a lot of people are talking about it in the chat and how Batman didn't get married. That wasn't.
I wanted Batman to get married. I really did. I was pissed off he didn't get married. Because I wanted him to get married, and I wanted all of a sudden you to go, wow, that's Earth 2 Batman. That whole time we were reading it was Earth 2 Batman. That's what I wanted. I thought that would have been cool. It didn't happen. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen because Tom King's going to write to issue 105.
Stop buying the book.
Cut it out.
Stop buying the book. Don't let it happen.
Write it, buy it, read it, love it.
Trash it.
Don't you dare.
But shit, I forgot.
Especially with those Matina covers. Those covers have been fantastic.
The only good part about it.
No, not the only good part.
That's one of the things too. I
first good part about it.
if Tom King didn't have such a stellar cast of artists, I don't think nearly as many people would like it.
No, I don't like it because of the art.
Tom King is awarded with higher quality artists than I think he deserves at this point.
What kind of artist do you think he should get?
I mean, at this point, like, again, it's that.
I mean, look, it's a Batman title. You could put me on it to draw it, and it would sell as many copies as it sells.
I mean, I also find it annoying that, like, he has the same, like, if you're going to switch artists and claim you're going to switch artists, it's like, it's been, generally speaking, the same recurring cast of Mikel Janin, Mitch Gerrits, and Clay Mann. I mean, Finch he did the beginning, but he's like,
well, I don't know if he's done.
Well, he hasn't done like an actual.
Well, the last, I mean, you had Lee Weeks doing the Mr. Freeze arc, and then the one shot was done by Matt Wagner.
I don't like that.
And then
I thought that art was bad.
Really?
I didn't like it. I don't think his art aged very well.
I thought it was good art.
Same like Klaus Janson.
I didn't like the latest Mikel Janin art. I was not happy with that at all. I thought it was very childish.
See, and like going into that Penguin art, I know we're skipping around continuity wise. Tom King is a smart writer,
without a doubt.
I can't stand the amount of hermeticism in his writing, and how I think in what was it, issue 60, how he responded to people not liking how hermetic he can be in his writing by like spilling his guts all over the floor. So in this most recent arc, was it Tyrant Wing is the name of the arc or something like that, with the Penguin?
Yeah.
And dealing with an invalid Bane.
Who's faking it?
But there's Batman would not. I just think it's grounded on such a weak premise. Like at the end of I Am Bane was when he was supposed to have beaten Bane into invalidity and a coma. Yeah. Like the entire fight, it's not like Batman's like consistently beating the shit out of each other. It is a blow for blow fight.
In the I Am Bane arc, you're right.
Right.
Correct.
So
and Batman's just like at the end, he's like, yeah, I get it. You're freaking Bane. I'm freaking Batman.
Right.
Well, bam.
Which is fine.
Absolutely.
But it's like at the end of it, you're like, okay, so it's like that one.
That's a bit much.
That one smack.
We're going toe to toe, and then I just headbutt you and you're dead.
Yeah.
You're down.
Which doesn't make sense. And again, the entire time is what is it from the Odyssey that Maxie Zeus is reciting?
Yeah.
Is the Odyssey or the Iliad or something by Homer? Again,
I'm not a big fan of when they sit there and start pulling in classic literature into. I mean, I guess that's what Maxie Zeus is. I don't
mind it,
but I'm just like, whatever. This isn't high art. It's not fine literature.
I mean,
comics.
I'm always the type of person that tells people to read comics for these higher thematics, because that's what appeals to me. But when, especially in this Tyrant Wing arc, he pulls from, I think it's the Turtle and the Phoenix.
Yep.
And it is perhaps one of the most hermetic Shakespeare poems of all time. The scholars, even scholars of Shakespeare, have only really deduced that it has something to do with the value of love in life. And Tom King,
Penguin did.
Right. But like that's all that people have been able to really put together. Scholars of Shakespeare. And Tom King has the need to include this. Why? It's like there is no, if there's no conclusive consensus to what it means, why are you including it? What's the point other than to seem elevated?
Well, maybe.
Which partially is useless.
Well,
filling up word balloons.
Like I said, personally, I'm not a big fan of that. It was like he was showing 2 points of it though, where Alfred's like, yeah, it's beautiful, it's awesome. And he's like, no, it sucks. Penguin's saying, no, this is terrible. Are you kidding me? It's not great. It's horrible. He's talking about how terrible it is.
Why the hell did he spend his time studying it, reading it over and over and over again? It's like Tom King includes little quirky things like that. Oh, I spent all this time reading this really hermetic.
Yeah, but then you read the last issue. I mean, the last page of friggin' 60, and you got Thomas Wayne as friggin' Batman,
which we don't.
Is like, what?
Which is
hell?
like,
how do you not want to read the next issue?
Like that's the only thing that.
That's okay.
Makes me
how do you not? Yes, but makes you want to read it, so you want to read it.
If a bad book consistently has last page stingers,
no. And that's not fair. It's not a bad book. It's not
just because it has a last page stinger.
No. That was cool.
Have you read Bendis and Superman?
Yes, but I don't even regard his last page as anything.
He's had some last page stingers.
Yeah, like putting the Earth in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. That's
not I don't consider that a stinger. I think that I just consider that an absurdity. I mean, please.
Like the Tom King's Batman Room?
No, I don't think Tom King's Batman Room is absurd in
so in this arc, let's predicate this on the fact that you had mentioned the Cold Days story arc.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where Bruce Wayne beats the living piss out of Mr. Freeze, realizes that he probably fucked up.
Yep.
And decides to kind of take a step back, right his wrongs,
and as the only way he can as Bruce Wayne.
Right. And
correct it.
The entire point he makes about having faith in the justice system and the people of Gotham saving Batman from himself is him contradicting that by what did he pay his way onto the jury or something like that?
It's not contradiction. It's the only way you're going to get Bruce Wayne on the jury.
But it's also like
truly that's the only way you're going to get him on the jury.
The only way that you can avoid people saying, "Oh, you just randomly threw him on the jury that happens to be on the case."
Come on, you can't read into that. Really, that's like putting Bill Gates on a jury. Bill Gates isn't going to go on a friggin' jury. They're just going to be like, you know what? Yeah, you're too high profile. You're too opinionated. Yeah, you're disqualified. Sorry.
Are we also not going to talk about how Batman Inc. is in continuity and he's affiliated with Batman?
I think they mentioned that. I believe they did.
So then why did they not?
Because he bought his way onto the jury, just like you said.
But like point being, nobody thinks twice about it.
They actually, the lawyers were actually questioning him on it, and he was just like sitting there, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, well, we have no problems with this jury," because they were bought.
But it's
to
also
say it.
The entire thematic is about Batman proving that the justice system can prevail, and he rigs his way into the justice system.
Yes, and I believe Alfred even said that as well at the end.
But just because you address it doesn't mean it clears anything up. It's still,
but it's not like he doesn't realize it. He addresses it,
right? So then,
and he pretty much dismissed it by saying, like, "Hey, you know what?" And that's what you should have done. You should have dismissed it by saying, "Hey, you know what? It was a means to an end. I had to do it in order to get there."
It contradicts the whole premise of letting the justice system do its work.
I disagree.
I
disagree. I mean, look, he has to get on the jury. With that being
said, can we say that at the end of that arc, he learns his lesson, that he probably went a little bit too far.
You would think that,
he had to
but then you read Batman from there on, and he's even a bigger dick than he was in that one. Well, he's beating the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, but it's like,
see, I love how he's like tried to tone down his swears, but I just kept going.
But it's, I mean, you look at the KGB arc; he has a reason, right?
Oh, true. You tried to kill your son, like
you're telling me that I have a lot of problems with this Tyrant Ring arc. After that, I didn't even mind that he left KGB for dead because it's ultimately a reference to the original 10 Nights of the Beast. Are we also going to, again, him trying to be highly elevated includes the Russian folklore, which, by the way, Russian folklore is really well known for not having a point.
I think the point in that was, it's like, because I was reading that myself. I read it again tonight, and I'm like, what was the point of him doing that one? And that's apparently the story that Bruce Wayne loved to have his father read to him. At night, at bedtime. That was the story he wanted his father to read. And I'm like,
but why? What's the point?
Yeah, what is the point? Because I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it's the fox it's the wily one. It's the one that thinks about what needs to get done and gets it done that wins in the end. Although,
but Batman just
did he truly win at the end because they didn't even tell you whether the fox was there?
Whether or not the ending of that tale was ambiguous,
it was.
It's not relative to. I mean, I agree, it's ambiguous, but I don't think that's relevant to the that part of the conversation, or at least where I'm trying to get with that. He doesn't win by outsmarting the Beast. He beats the piss out of him. True. So what is the point of it? To fill panel space? Because Tom King needs to prove that he's an intelligent writer? I get it, Tom. You're smart. You're a smart man. You were in the CIA. You write Batman books. Cool.
I'm sure I will acquiesce to the fact that I'm sure he had a point. I couldn't ascertain what it was at the moment. Maybe another 20 issues.
That's consistent throughout his Batman run.
I don't see that. I will say truly, if that wasn't the first, it was maybe the second time.
Or fifth.
For you, the fourth. For me, the second. Where I read it and it was like, where are you going with this? I don't understand where you're going with
We
that.
got
I just don't understand.
We got a
All right, bring
comment
it up.
from Taylor. He says, "Don't get me started on how terribly he writes Wonder Woman." It was pretty fucking bad. It was pretty bad. I just and you know, I think that like the internet has this weird infatuation with Tom King and thinks he's like the second coming.
No, I don't. I personally didn't like his Sheriff of Babylon.
Well, it's like, well, no, in terms of his Batman, like you remember that one shot, I don't remember what issue it was, where it was like kind of a Hush ripoff where that kid like wants to be like Bruce Wayne, so he kills his parents, and everybody's like, that this is just magnum opus, this is a killing joke, this is the best thing since fucking sliced bread.
It was a good issue.
It was fine, but like everybody overhypes everything Tom King does.
Okay, well, I can't, I can't speak for everybody else that does stuff like that.
Okay, so I got off track a little bit.
I thought it was a good issue.
Where I was going with like Cold Zays transitioning into the new arc where he beats the living piss out of Bane and eventually decks Jim Gordon in the fucking face for no reason.
Oh, because Jim Gordon was trying to stop him from pummeling Bane and he didn't want to stop.
You mean the time that Jim Gordon tried to stop Bruce from killing the Joker? Did he turn back and rip him a new one?
No. Was he hurt by Selena Kyle at the time? No. First off, he
just lost his best friend. As far as he knew, Tommy Elliott was dead. He had just lost his best friend. He had all the reason in the world to kill the Joker. Who was his childhood best friend?
Childhood best friend.
Whom he was rekindling a relationship with.
Okay, fine.
Which is a very testy period in someone's life, right?
Okay.
And so,
maybe.
Point being, I think he had just as much, if not more, of a reason to beat the piss and or kill the Joker.
Okay. Well, aside from Hush, no, because aside from the fact that he's already hurt from Catwoman,
Dick gets shot.
He knows. Yes, Dick gets shot, and he knows Bane hired KGBs to freaking try to kill Dick Grayson. That's a lot worse than your best friend. You tried to kill your son.
But I get that he's more unhinged, but you would think that Batman, being such an intelligent being, would even remotely learn his lesson. And it's like also, the invalid dialogue of Bane, like he came out of a coma, so now he's suddenly an invalid. Like that's just so unnecessary. It's one of those quirky little stylistic choices that Tom King makes because he thinks it's smart or he thinks it's charming, and I think it's totally unnecessary.
Like he's supposed to be catatonic, so he's nonsensical. That's what the point he was trying.
And it was predicated on a headbutt.
Well, it was a hell of a headbutt. Obviously he's got armor. And
how much neck strength can a man have?
Hey, it's a plated cowl. It's not just a headbutt.
It didn't stop Joker's bullet very well.
Well, but it didn't kill him because it was plated cowl.
I think that also the way he wrote Gordon, how Batman decks Gordon, right? Gordon is fully aware that Batman just lost his partner.
Yeah, right. And Gordon's just like, get out.
I'm gonna let it pass. He overreacts. Smashes the bat signal.
Oh, that's the next issue.
That
is the next issue. But it's not. He does not overreact on that. No, because Gordon is like, first he goes in, he wakes up the next morning, he's like, what's going on? And he's finding out Batman's beating the living piss out of everybody.
You're thinking, you would
not just him.
You're saying your friend of at least 10 years wouldn't come to you and say, let's talk about it. Rather than let me do this really stupidly quirky scene where I steal this guy's memorabilia bat because I need to make a point at how
that was later in the issue.
Because Tom King needs to make this really quirky, funny bit of dialogue between him and the other officer. Oh, I guess you're the Batman now.
It was Bullock.
It wasn't. I don't think it was Bullock.
It was Bullock.
Well, either way, it was dumb. So you smash the bat signal because in a moment of rage and pure emotion, one of your a friend of at least a decade punches you in the face. You're telling me you can't think, well, hey, let's talk about what happened. And then also Bruce, the entire time, is doing the exact thing that he did in the Cold Days arc. There is no character progression at all.
He's seeing his friend of 10 years become unhinged.
So he doesn't talk to him. He just wages war against Batman.
He can't even reach him because he's just going half-cocked off of freaking Firefly and beat the crap out of you. Max sees it.
That's also dumb, though.
But he's
it's also
not of his normal mind. Bruce Wayne is not of his normal mind.
But here's my issue, right? If this entire arc, right, is to put Batman through hell, right, or to prove that Batman is shaken from the results of the wedding, which were dumb.
That's part of it. Now he's shaken beyond that
with Dick,
right? Dick.
But at the same time, we're okay. I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
At the same time, we go into the arc with Bane.
Mm-hmm.
He makes the same exact mistake that he learned a lesson from in Cold Days 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Okay.
What was the point of Cold Days then?
He might have learned the point, but obviously he failed because he repeated the same mistake. Why? Because something else happened, which caused him to further unhinge. He's not going to go, wait a minute.
I think it's lazy writing.
I might have overstepped my bounds here. I should take a step back. But, dude, you tried to kill my fucking son.
But at the same time, you look into this stuff. Even beating the piss out of Freeze, he had a little bit more of a reason, right? Like Freeze actually killed, or at the time he thought Freeze killed 3 women.
Well, now the Freeze arc happens right after Catwoman,
right?
So he's like unglued. He's already like, what the hell? And yeah, he sees that and he just goes off. I get, yeah,
right. And
fine.
Then, which is like I'm fine with. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with him beating the piss out of Freeze and learning his lesson. But now he beats 5, 6 petty Arkham Asylum inmates. Mm-hmm. who have no connection to a recent crime, a murder, anything crazy like that, because he needs to get info. I know Batman has really brutal means of getting info.
Yeah.
But again, to cross that line after learning the lesson for far less of a legitimate reason to do it, it's lazy writing. If you Tom King, if you want to make,
he wasn't doing the same thing though. Freeze, he had arrested for murder.
So he beats. But the premise.
Granted, he beat him.
But that
he beat him.
That was
to force him to confess that he killed the 3 women, even though he didn't. But his point was, okay, now you're going to jail, and you're gonna be arrested. You're going to jail. You're going to prison. That's what's going to happen. These other guys, he's just beating the crap out of them to get information because Penguin has told him one thing, and for whatever reason, he's siding with Penguin. He's at the end of like issue 59, he says to Alfred, I really don't know. I don't know who to believe. But he is pummeling all these people trying to get the answer.
Right.
And they're all saying, dude, Bane's a vegetable. Bane's not doing anything.
Which is the same mistake he made in Cold Days. I think the premise of Cold Days, or the main focus and the main flaw that Batman partakes in Cold Days isn't that he arrests Freeze. It's that he beats him half to death. And he was wrong about it. But at the time, at least Batman had a level of conviction to his actions. He thought Freeze killed 3 people. Whereas here, he's just doing it to get information.
Now, I don't think it was the beating that he saw was his problem. I think it was the fact that he went in after the fact, after the GCPD
and figured out that
and saw that these people just died of blood clots.
Right, and he overacted.
And then he was like,
Freeze was framed.
Right, agreed. Yeah, Freeze was framed by Penguin, who was set up by Bane to do it. But the whole, he was concerned, not that he beat the crap out of Freeze. He wasn't concerned about that. He's been beating crap out of bad guys for years. And even forced a confession. He wasn't really upset about that. I think his real fact was that he was upset that he was wrong. He was wrong in thinking that Freeze did it, because Freeze, in fact, didn't do it.
I mean,
that was his problem.
That's certainly a part of the central focus.
I think that's what he thought was his problem, but not that he was kicking the crap out of people.
I think it was the intensity and the unrightful. Again, it's that he was wrong also, right? This is tying into what you're saying. He was wrong in beating Freeze
ultimately
half to death.
He was, but that's not what bothers
So then he beats 5 D-list
because that didn't bother him
half to death.
Because it didn't bother him. that he beat Freeze almost after
But
death.
it's like
that didn't bother him.
Batman has ways of interrogation, but beating people half to death unnecessarily. And again, I get it; he's unhinged. But like, I feel like we learned this lesson in Cold Days. If you want to make a logical regression in Batman's character to highlight the fact that you're trying to shake up his footing after the wedding, leading into whatever the hell else he wants to do, there's a much better way of doing it.
But logic has to be thrown out the window.
Why?
Because he's unhinged. When you're unhinged, you don't think logically. So why do we, as a reader, have to follow a logical train of thought on Batman when he's not being logical?
Because he's the one character.
But he's not.
He's the one character in comic books who's logical when no one else is. So to say that
now he's at a moment where he's not logical.
And you're telling me he's never undergone more tragedy in a concentrated period of time in comic books and been able to walk away from it.
Sure I could find one.
I'm sure you could find a handful.
That doesn't mean that it was true. Maybe that was poor writing because they were just like, well, Batman could figure it out.
Well, here's the
Batman could face adversity better than anybody else.
There's a way. I think that there's a way to attain his goal level of humanization and ultimately proving some point that Batman is a emotionally stunted man in a much.
I think he's made Batman more human than we have seen.
I think he's made
in a very long time.
I think that the issue is that he goes from Robo Batman to suicidal, tortured human soul Batman like this.
I never see him as a Robo Batman. Just give me an example.
I mean, again, monosyllabic dialogue.
That doesn't mean that you're a robot.
Well, I mean, to say that dialogue isn't one of the most overt ways to convey a character.
You could sit there and go, That doesn't mean you're a robot. It means like I can't be bothered with giving you any type of coherent, response.
Batman doesn't know how to communicate.
He does, but that's his way of communicating, which tells you, look, okay, well, I guess Batman doesn't really give a crap right now, or doesn't care what I think because he's just like,
I don't like how he handles that. And then, besides the fact that I think at least 2, maybe even 3 of Tom King's Batman arcs were all to set up Sanctuary and Heroes in Crisis.
There were references to it, but I don't see the whole arcs as being set up. Maybe Ivy.
100% maybe. Booster Gold. 100%. 100% to set up Sanctuary.
Okay, those 2. I'll give you that.
I would say maybe not 100%, but there are...
Booster Gold was my first moment where I was like, because Booster Gold, reading the gift at the start of that arc, it's like, that's not Booster Gold anymore. That's Booster Gold from Justice League, from the DeMatteis and Giffen era. That's exactly that was the Booster Gold from that era, without a doubt.
I think that was even a far dumber Booster Gold than that era.
I thought that was perfectly in line with what Booster Gold would be. Because Booster Gold now is like a Time Lord. So the last thing he's going to do is want to screw time by, let's get a gift of going back in time and showing Batman how sucky his life would be if he wasn't Batman.
Right. So then why do
that? Was a big one. Yeah. Well,
which is what, 3-4 issues?
It was a 4-issue story.
So we got 4 issues entirely based on that poor bit of writing and characterization. It just
to set up Sanctuary, like you said.
Again, and I just
which at the end it did set it up.
I'm not going to talk about how I don't like Heroes in Crisis because I've done that before. But you're wasting. I think it was a waste. You are taking DC's highest, most consistent book. Mm-hmm. Let's not say highest selling, most consistent book to set up.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, right? It's set up an event at the same time. It's not just Tom King saying this is what I want to do. It's also editorial and even people above him going, hey, you know what, Tom? We want this wedding issue to be issue friggin' 50. So what do you got to do to get it to issue 50? And he's like, the way I have this laid out, it's going to hit at 46. There's no way. You got to throw something in there.
I gotta believe that Tom King went into he had planned. He had a lot of forward planning going into his Batman. I don't think he had Sanctuary planned from the beginning. Sanctuary was hinted at from the beginning. The whole inclusion of Psychopirate was to inherently lead into Sanctuary.
Well,
The entire I would even say central thematic in his Batman run is exploring trauma through the lens of different people and how they respond to said trauma differently.
which is the overarching theme of Sanctuary, of Heroes in Crisis. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Entirely.
Hmm.
So far, well, I don't even think we've gotten that because it's been a really shitty mystery drama. But I'm not going to go off. I did a live chat last week with Comic Boom and Joseph's Books. Plug, go check that out after this, obviously. But I think that I think it's such a terrible idea that you write two mediocre arcs and again, I think that
I didn't think Poison Ivy arc was mediocre
I
by
thought it
any
was-
stretch of the
I thought,
imagination.
and mind you, let me put this out there. I was excited to get a Poison Ivy arc.
Yeah.
I was really excited, and then it's okay. She somehow takes over the world.
I read
Whatever.
that she somehow.
Okay. She takes over the world. Okay, which whatever. It's predicated on some sort of cohesive basis.
Eat your lettuce.
Right. Eat your
Eat your
lettuce.
lunch. Eat your greens. That's
So
how she controlled you.
So are we going to talk about how Selena Kyle one-shotted 3 flashes?
That was ass kicking,
It was
wasn't it?
stupid. It was so stupid. I get it. They're mind controlled. But
They
last
are.
time I checked, the last time Poison Ivy mind controlled Superman, it was not easy for Batman to take him out. In fact, Batman technically didn't take him out.
No, he got killed.
He played the long game.
I mean, when Superman punched,
Point being, and it's the
Ivy had
same.
Superman punch him,
Kill
him.
I'm not going to bring up Heroes in Crisis. I can't do that.
Okay,
but
I have not reread it. I've only read it once.
But we're going to talk about 3 characters with the Speed Force, incredibly expedited healing, who have taken far more blunt trauma, explosive trauma, any level of physical trauma than a kick to the face from Catwoman. But they're down for the count? Are you kidding me? Because he needs to prove, like he did in that stupid Talia arc, that Selena can do everything. She's better than Batman.
That was a great arc. Really?
Selena beating Talia in a sword fight, somebody who's been raised
Fantastic.
from birth
Yeah.
for combat, especially sword fighting.
She even said it.
Even if it were
And Selena picked up the sword maybe once or twice.
But so if it were hand-to-hand combat, I still wouldn't have agreed with it, but I would have given it more credence because Selena is a fine hand-to-hand, but sword fighting, who Selena has little to no experience with. Why?
They even admit
Where's the
admit
sense to it? But if you would just because if I punch him in the face right now, admit that it's wrong, it doesn't make it any less wrong.
True.
So it doesn't make that any less incoherent and indecent writing to ignore the fact that Talia is an experienced fighter, almost on the level of Batman.
I'm not saying that, but okay.
I mean, Batman.
Yeah, I know. Well, she beat him in that issue, which I totally disagreed with.
Which
but
also is dumb.
If that's fine,
Whoa.
then it's just as easily as fine for Catwoman to beat Talia.
But that neither of them, 2 wrongs don't make it right. This isn't math. 2 negatives are not making positive.
That's it.
No. This
negative and a negative positive.
Yo, suck. It's nonsensical. It's another one of those things where Tom King either wants to elevate a character or make a point about a character and sacrifices pre-established continuity, characterization, and overall sense associated with said continuity to get his point across. That's one of my biggest issues with his Batman.
Yeah.
I think that he sacrifices Batman. At times, kind of makes him an idiot, even before the wedding. Kind of makes him an idiot to get his point across. Like, I get it. I get the fact that at times there will need to be compromises because if Batman is truly prepared for everything, there's no story. Right. But I think that there's a way to do that, and a lot of other writers ahead of him have done it, to both provide a story with a sensical, like a sensical reason that sets that plot into motion and why, and gives a legitimate reason as to why Batman couldn't just. Mind you, I'm a moderately intelligent human being. I should not have been able to, in that issue 48 with the church, been like, why didn't he just scout the church and sneak his way in and incapacitate the Joker and avoid nearly everything.
Well, because the Joker's already shooting up the church and killing people.
So, but
he's already killed like 4 or 5 people in there right at the beginning.
But
so he doesn't really have time to sit there and scout it. More people are going to die.
You're telling me? I mean, I don't think it's hard to believe with Batman knowing Gotham as well as he does.
Yeah,
doesn't have a way to get in there and get out. As obsessed as Batman is, that he doesn't like. It's not a far reach. The entirety of Court of Owls is that, generally speaking, he knows Gotham by the back of his hand.
I understand that, but see, at the same time, you're reading comics, and sometimes you want to see a cool scene. How freaking cool was it to see Batman crash through the cathedral ceiling and take down?
I've seen Batman crash through hundreds of ceilings.
It's a cool scene.
I've seen Batman crash through hundreds of ceilings.
Sometimes you just have to acquiesce and say, "Hey, that's a cool scene."
To me, that's not valuable enough to totally dissolve pre-existing conceptions about the character. It's for me, I cannot make that sacrifice because it's cool.
You want to read Batman looking around, finding another way into the church, because he knew that there was an easier way to go underneath the floor.
I want Tom King to
come up and pull Joker
Tom King to have crafted a better story so that I couldn't poke a hole in it within the first 5 minutes.
Anybody can poke a hole in almost any story.
But it's like the amount of ease. You know what I mean? I get that. Like if you sit there and study something,
sure,
8 or 9 times out of 10, you can probably poke a hole in it. But if reading it, I'm immediately like, why did he just barge in there? The entirety of, not even the entirety. A majority of Batman's training is predicated on him sneaking in, getting out, and accomplishing the mission. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me he's just, now fuck, cool entrance time.
When does he do that with the Joker?
Let me think.
He knows the Joker is psychotic and unhinged, and he doesn't really have time to sit there and deduce a better way of moving in and stealthily take down the Joker. The Joker is unhinged.
But you're telling me that, the
Joker is a total wild card.
But why couldn't Batman think of that? Even if it failed, why couldn't Batman just say, "Okay, I'm going to try to sneak myself in," instead of making a scene? Because
he needs to save life. He needs to save
lives
as soon as he can. He's not going to waste time.
But Batman is a tactician. You're telling me that he went in there without any plan? Nothing. He doesn't need hours of prep time.
Maybe his plan was a full frontal assault on the Joker would surprise, a shock and awe.
Where's the logic in that? He knows again, you bring up how the Joker is unpredictable.
Right.
There's no logic in that. He knows the Joker's unpredictable.
Well, there's no logic with the Joker. You can't be logical when you're trying to...
But here's the thing. Just because the Joker's illogical doesn't mean Batman needs to be illogical.
No, but if the point is his logic will fail because there's nothing you can predict because the Joker is so unpredictable. So anytime you think, well, if I do this,
well, I mean,
then I can take down the Joker.
I disagree. I mean, if you look at, for example, like The Man Who Laughs, Batman begins to think logically in order to intercept the Joker and beat him. That's what it's all about. And even if Batman fails, he at least comes up with a plan. Like Batman does not go into it strong-arming his way through. Never has he done that except in I Am Suicide. But that's also predicated on Tom King making a point about Batman and his mission and his drive to save a life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not relevant to him barging into I was going to say casino, a church.
Yeah.
It's another sacrifice that Tom King goes to make a point, and I get it that I don't have any credence either in him just silently kneeling down to pray with the Joker. You're telling me that your guard isn't up in the least.
Who says it wasn't? Why do you think it wasn't?
So.
I thought it was. I thought the way it was drawn was, he looked around and he decided, I don't know, whatever. I'll do it. I'll kneel down because
you couldn't. You're telling me
the last thing I want the Joker to do is kill himself for whatever friggin' reason. Why wouldn't he let him do it? Personally, I'd be like, hey, you know what? You want to do it? Go ahead.
Easy solution. The Joker's turned around praying. Shoot him with a tranquilizer dart. Why couldn't you do that? You save his life.
Mm-hmm.
Forego, what was it? Didn't the church blow up?
And that was maybe 10 more pages that you now got rid of. So, well, who wants to read? Okay, Batman just
if I can find someone who holds this quick, it's not it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like I think the best Batman stories are the ones where they are so enthralling that you're not even like thinking about any holes.
I wasn't.
I was the entire time. That was the first thing I was picking out.
I wasn't at all.
And that was back when I didn't entirely dislike Tom King's Batman run.
Yeah.
And the thing for me that makes me, I guess, passionate on Tom King's Batman run is he's written decent Batman beforehand. I didn't dislike the first 3 arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think they had their problems. I thought the first arc was a little bit dry for my taste, but I didn't dislike it. So I'm not going in here with bias. I'm going in here thinking I want a well-crafted story that I don't need to poke a bunch of holes in. And I want a story that if there are obvious holes, want it to be so good that I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people that'll happen. I mean, Star Wars almost entirely predicated on one thing happening. You know what, though? I'm fine with it because I'm interested. I'm invested in everything that's going on. I'm not invested in a Batman who doesn't plan at all, remotely. I'm not invested in a Batman that charges his way through like a bull in a china shop. I'm not invested in a Batman that doesn't, who in pages previous addresses the level of unpredictability in the Joker and doesn't account for it. It's just, again, sacrifices to the character that don't make sense to me. And again, I think that's bad writing. I think that you could have done a story with Batman and Joker that stresses that Batman values human life that I couldn't find so many problems with reading it first time through.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, I don't agree with, I think it was poor, lazy writing with the whole controversy between Gordon and Bruce. I don't think Batman would have turned around and ripped him in the face.
Oh, I do. I totally do.
Yeah, but even if
totally 100% do. He's beating the friggin' crap out of Bane, and Gordon's trying to stop him, and he just hauls off because he's hauling off.
But it's like Batman.
He's not going to all of a sudden just stop because it's Jim Gordon. It's like, get the hell out of my freaking way.
But Batman being the planner, he's
not planning
nothing.
He's not though, because he can't. He's not thinking that way.
But Batman has undergone more trauma and done more planning. He lost his blood son and made a plan to go to the DC interpretation of hell, beat the metaphorical devil.
These are different writers doing different
in continuity.
True, but these are totally different writers doing their interpretation.
But I think for me, the task of a writer, writing something in a periodical format with a pre-existing continuity, needs to be aware of it.
And yes, but they don't need to hinge themselves on it. And I believe it was, I don't know if it was Jeff Johns himself, but it might have been Jim Lee, it might have been Dan DiDio. But they said it about 5 years ago. Continuity is great. We don't want to be betrothed to it. We don't want to be tied to it.
That was for DCU, though.
And so now all of a sudden DCU forget it, and we're back down to total straight up continuity across the board. I think at the end of the day, what they want to tell is good stories. Now you don't think it's a good story, I do.
Something I want to ask the people in the chat, because this is how I saw Rebirth. I thought Rebirth was totally predicated on the idea of returning the sense of continuity and legacy. I mean, one of my favorite parts in Rebirth, because I read almost every book, was that, for example, Batman #1. Alfred, call Superman. Sorry, what was he doing in the first arc of Superman? He was off world.
That's what they said. Yeah.
Or he was
and he's like,
he was off world. Or Hal is off world. Clark is doing this.
Right.
And then suddenly we don't care. I think editors are giving Tom King too much leeway to do this stuff and ignore the continuity. And Tom King needs to be held accountable for that. Anybody writing, especially a major character, in continuity needs to be aware of it and value it. I don't think that he needs to totally adhere to all of the Batman iterations that I've loved, but I think that there needs to be a pre-existing value to them in Tom King's run. They need to have existed. Therefore, the development the development of the character needs to exist here.
Well,
Therefore, I
they
can't.
very much have existed because he has referenced the pre-existing continuity many times,
And then
simply
ignores
with
it.
the fact.
I think that's. I think
Simply with the fact that Holly Robinson is in the stories is the fact that he's going right back to Frank Miller's year one because that's where Holly Robinson comes in.
right, but it's like it's like what Bendis is doing with Superman. He's obviously read a couple of really major Superman books.
Yeah.
Year one's clearly a major Batman book, but we're not paying attention to the context of the current continuity, right? That's my issue. You need to be aware, I guess, like he needs to be aware of his surroundings, essentially, and that being in continuity.
Button, and what's up, man? Button was a total disappointment, and 75% of that was because of Josh Williamson. Tom King dropped off after the first issue.
I didn't hate the Button. Wait, who said that?
Isn't that what it said? What does it say?
No. So Joseph's books,
Batman,
he made Batman dumb. I kind of agree to that.
disagree.
There's again predicated, grounded, based, premised. Synonyms are your friend. EJK. Yeah, he agreed. I guess he agrees with me on this. And okay, now they're talking in the chat, but there's so much sacrifice that's being made. Or there's so much sacrifice in the Batman character for Tom King to make a point. I think that Tom King would do much better in a sandbox, for example, like Mr. Miracle, with characters that are not in the limelight that he can mold a little bit, or in a creator-owned series. For me, my Batman is pensive. He's intelligent, forward-thinking, sometimes irrational when his emotions really get the best of him, but overall able to compose himself on some level. I've seen Batman almost walk the line many times.
Mm-hmm.
And arguably other people have had to stop him from crossing those lines. But I don't see that here. There are some central themes to Batman and some central elements to the character that I don't think are present. One being his intelligence and his forward thinking. Two being, I think, his overall skill. Again, we've talked about him losing in combat to Talia, Selina then beating Talia, or Selina one-shotting the Flashes.
Cool.
And again, and in that Ivy arc, you're telling me Batman's entire plan was getting punched to death by Superman and being saved by Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn's a psychiatrist, not a neurosurgeon. Also, why would Batman, again, this is before the wedding, so there's no emotional distress.
Yep.
Why is Batman's entire plan predicated on dying and a psychiatrist giving him life-changing brain surgery?
I don't know if that was his plan. But it happened.
He said they addressed it at the end of the arc.
Yeah.
About how that was his plan. And then it's all what? So that we could now involve Harley and Ivy in
Same Crisis.
Yeah. It's dumb. It's straight up dumb and lazy writing. Again, Batman. I'll take that as an agreement.
No,
that was a bullshit.
Editors. You immediately said Harley Quinn. If you're bringing in something like that, it is an editorial insert. It sounds like an editorial insert. It just, screams to me in the peanut gallery over here, just editorial.
I mean,
I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm just going with my gut on it.
I mean, not to engage too much with the peanut gallery.
The peanut gallery only does it a little bit. Continue.
I will say that I think that's also the responsibility of the writer, and I think that it's not unlike Tom King to do something like that. Like he's been very referential in his writing, and I don't think that this is all the result of editorial. I think if anything, I do agree that editorial has been very loose with Tom King, but I think it's because they let him do too much shit because now he's Tom King. They do not hold him back anymore.
Well, he's definitely built a name for himself.
To my dismay.
To your dismay, but regardless, he has a name.
But I mean,
and they now look at him as one of the premier writers at DC. There's no question.
But I don't think that's founded on much. I think that, again,
regardless,
people like his Batman run because, yes, he has something profound to say about the human condition, about trauma, about different people dealing with it.
It's just a great Batman story.
No.
That's what it is.
But like, I feel
I'm
like most
sorry.
of the time people read that and they're like, wow, he has this really emotional point to make.
I care about
And
the damn
I-
emotion. I don't care about that. Is it a good Batman story? To me, it's a good Batman
But
story.
I
You're
think-
telling me
I
damn
think
good Batman
I
story,
think the reason that
especially from beginning
I
to
think the
now.
reason that you're fine with it though is because you're willing to ignore the things that I'm not willing to ignore.
Maybe.
And in my opinion, the things that I'm not willing to ignore are slights on the character and on the characters around him. He's sacrificing. You cannot
There
lie.
are a couple of moments that, yes, I have agreed to say, okay, fine. There have been a few moments where I was like, all right, fine, I'll go with it.
and
I'm not 100% on it, but I'll go with it.
and there's also like with Ivy. First off, the last thing we saw her in, she was kind of a vigilante anti-hero, and now she's a complete villain. So we're completely ignoring that. I'll give you that. That was the editor.
I can only so many times.
I can only play that card so many times. But with that being said, the entirety of Poison Ivy's trauma is that in the, I guess the unimpactful war of jokes and riddles,
Yep.
that somebody told her that she needed to kill some people, therefore she was
Riddle.
traumatized. But
No. She thought she killed them. They were coming
But
after her and the Riddler.
how many hundreds of people has she killed?
Yeah, it's irrelevant. This was in year one. See, the whole thing of jokes and riddles was year one. That was Batman year
Post
one.
year one.
Well, but that's the point. Yes, it's post Frank Miller year one,
But
but it is the first year of Batman. It's well before he's really.
I think they said
I
it's
want to
second
say
year.
year two, fine.
Because Long Halloween already exists. His Rogues
okay.
Gallery already exists. So it's somewhere at the end of his second year of Batman.
All right, well, it's early on in his career.
But even that being said, beforehand, Poison Ivy's existed. She's killed a number of people. So what is this some sort of like analog way for saying like it's this analog way at attributing this situation to rape? Like she was forced to do something that she didn't want to do.
I didn't see that.
It's just dumb.
I didn't see that.
I mean, either way.
I just saw it as she was lied to.
But
she thought she killed them.
So
it turned out nope. Riddler came back and killed them, and it was like.
But I think it's entirely unnecessary that a murderer is suddenly traumatized by murdering.
Well, because you're looking back at
which they've already established exists.
Continuity. But again, you have to what had happened was, like you said, year two. Had she killed anybody prior to that? According to that story, no. And basically, she was like, "Hey, you know what? And I never killed them to begin with. Wow, I'm totally screwed up now because you're telling me I've killed people since then, and I didn't need to. The only reason I did it was because I thought it was a freaking murder to begin with, and I'm not."
She killed but the thing is, it is already suggested it's not even suggested. It is already pretty much inherent that she's been Poison Ivy for a bit. She's killed people. So why does this impact her that much?
It impacts her because she had thought she killed and realized she didn't.
Also, realistically,
was told she didn't by Batman. So she didn't.
Realistically, besides like the turning point that Batman was going to kill the Joker,
and unhinged her.
What is the result? What is the significance of War of Jokes and Riddles? It didn't change anything for the future. What I read here is not impacting anything at all.
No, it was just something he had to tell Selena before
they
got married because he wanted her to know all of him.
But
he wanted her to know that he was fallible. He was human just like everybody else. He almost crossed the line.
But he's poorly retreading. He's poorly retreading on Hush. He's almost killed the Joker before. Why is this time any different?
Hush was well after year two.
Okay, but even then, so we're retconning this. It was like, wow. Suddenly, fuck that. Mine's more important because it happened first. Even though I've even talked to Tom King. I've met Tom King, and one of the things that I've talked about him.
Met him or talked to him.
One of the things that I talked to him about was how I see influence from Jeff Loeb's Batman in his writing, especially with how important Selena is to Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he has addressed this and said, yes, Jeff Loeb is certainly a big influence. So he knows Hush.
Mm-hmm.
He is very familiar with the fact that he's essentially biting off Hush for an inconsequential story. It's wasted page for me. It's totally wasted page for me.
I thought War Jokes and Riddles was much better the second time I read it. The
Solid.
first time I read it, because it was a bi-weekly book at the time, and I'm reading it every other week, and I'm like, yeah, where are you going with this? Holy crap.
Oh, we got
Wow, this is freaking
a
boring.
little bit of confusion. Nerdy Blur TV, he goes, Killing Joke. Oh, as in almost killing the Joker. That's a good point. That's also a thing.
What? Where?
He says many times the Killing Joke. Because if you think about it, I know one of the arguments, Grant Morrison also makes the argument that Bruce does kill the Joker at the end of the Killing Joke. But it's in continuity. There are implications in continuity to Killing Joke, so he never killed the Joker.
Right, he didn't. They're laughing at
But again, it's the same thing. Like Tom King, he tells this really inconsequential and I think dull story to get to a point that I think fails to be profound because it's already happened. And it's you change what, a fist for a knife. You change strangling for a knife. You change the Joker's hairdo. I don't care. It's just unnecessary. You're retreading water that's already been walked on, and I get it. People do say that there's no such thing as an original story.
Yep.
But that is like, if you even like begin to try to tell me that was an original story, by the time you got to the letter, oh, I'd probably smack you. It's just so unnecessary and inconsequential. Like, again, with the Ivy arc, what is the greater impact to his Batman story here? It's for Sanctuary. What is the greater impact to the Booster Gold arc? It's for Sanctuary. We've now wasted 3 arcs out of how many now? 9 or 10?
What was the first one?
First of what?
Arcs that we wasted.
Jokes and Riddles.
Oh, okay.
Ivy.
Okay,
Booster
well, Jokes
Gold.
and Riddles, but that was not to set up Sanctuary.
But it was
I didn't see it as a wasted arc.
It's wasted. I don't think
it was too long.
If you have a story, for me, I've been okay with reading run-of-the-mill Batman stories that don't have huge impacts on continuity, as long as they're interesting. For me, it was this.
There's been plenty of interesting Batman.
There have been
over the years,
but that's not the topic of conversation. So, with that in mind, you look at how boring the story was. Right? It's just story, acknowledging Year One, Kite Man. Story. Gordon has to walk. I'm not even going to bring it up because I don't have a problem with it. Kite Man.
Well, he had to bring in Kite Man because that was the whole. He had to set up Kite Man,
and I don't mind Kite Man. I really don't, but I thought it was incredibly boring, drawn out, poorly paced, inconsequential. It doesn't have the significance for me. And for me,
he's the foible in the end. He's the one that manages
to
end the whole War of Jokes and Riddles. So you needed it.
Where's the consequence?
But the consequence of his son died.
Okay, but we already knew
his son was killed by the Riddler.
Right, but we need to do all this to tell the story of his son dying. That could have been a 2 or 3 issue arc.
Well, he doesn't do all of that, but it's.
But what's the impact?
I mean, that's not the whole point of the story.
What's the impact to our protagonist?
It was for Bruce Wayne
to tell
Selina how he almost came to cross the line.
But we already know that it's happened twice.
Well, sure, we know,
but she
didn't.
Do you think
so? He had to tell her.
Again, this is kind of like poking a little bit in the suspension of disbelief here. But are we to really believe that Selina, who was heavily involved in Hush, actually had addressed it in Hush, is unaware of the time he almost beat the Joker to death and Gordon had to stop him?
Yeah.
She's aware of it. So what is the significance of this? Like, she already knows that Batman has almost crossed that line.
She might know it, but he hasn't told her that.
Yeah, they talked about it in the Batcave during Hush. It exists. And again, it's not a story that Tom King hasn't read. Tom King's run is influenced by Jeff Loeb's Batman. So I think it's lazy, it's unnecessary. You could have told me another story. Dude, you could have, what was it, like 6 issues? 4 Jokes and Riddles?
Yeah,
something 5 or 6 issues or 7. You could have given me a bunch of small stories, 1 medium story, 1 small story. What is this doing for me? Nothing. And then again, Ivy arc, totally unnecessary. Booster Gold arc, totally unnecessary. Has no relevance to Batman. He's sacrificing pages in Batman to get to Heroes in Crisis, and I get it. You got a plug, you got a tie-in, but 3 arcs.
I mean, the gift was more. I mean,
The Gift.
it was a gift. It was a gift.
Not to me.
No, it wasn't.
To my trash can, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But
The
no,
only
it was.
let me say the only decent thing was Tony S. Daniel. His art knocked it out of the park.
Oh, without a doubt, his art's fantastic.
But it read terribly. Oh, we have a clarification. World Jokes and Riddles, Taylor Pecker says, was 8 issues, including the Kite Man interludes.
There you go, 8.
I needed 8 issues of garbage to get nowhere.
It was only 4 months, so yeah, because it's bi-weekly.
But it's still 8 issues of
Absolutely. To you,
what did we get? Was it 24 pages of comic
not
now?
high art. It is comics.
I don't need high art for good story.
Garbage. It was
or sensible characterization. For me, it really falls short. And I think it's entirely consistent in this Batman run. Again, Batman's skills being sacrificed, Batman's intelligence being sacrificed, and whether or not we want to play the trauma game and what's happening, post-wedding, post-Dick getting shot, I don't think that I can suspend my knowledge of Batman's continuity and the existing continuity of Batman, even of which Tom King has addressed on times.
I believe Tom King's ultimate goal is to make Batman more human.
I think he hates Batman.
I don't think so.
I think he hates Batman.
Loves Batman.
I
disagree with that strongly.
I don't think he likes Batman, and whether or not it's a conscious thing or a subconscious thing, he wants to bring Batman. Like, I get it. The best Batman stories are the ones where he has to crawl himself up, except for the Dark Knight Rises. That was not good. But it's the same concept. It's just this really slow burn, that has been ultimately disappointing. And again, it's not like I've hated the run from the beginning. Yeah. The first 3 arcs I thought were fine. I liked. A lot of people disagree with me. Nerdy Bird TV. It was bi-weekly. Still is, unfortunately. Actually, no. Fortunately, the sooner this is done, the sooner I can read Batman again.
You just read them already in Detective.
Oh, the sooner the Batman title. Sorry, that was a good book. Buy that. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Batman's great.
Tom
King's Batman's great.
Negative.
Absolutely. Phenomenal.
I think I was going somewhere along the lines of he's just doing this really slow burn to make a point that anybody else can tell in a much smaller amount of time, in a much more concise way, without sacrificing anything. And the reason that I don't give Tom a pass is because he's a good writer. So you would think he'd be able to do that. But he's
definitely a good writer.
He's a great writer, but I don't think when it comes to superheroes, when you have a predetermined sandbox to play in, that he really shows any strength at all. I think that all of the significant points he had to make about Batman were done by the end of I Am Bane. I think that, again, I remember where I was going now. I know a lot of people didn't like I Am Suicide. I thought there were some plot issues, but I think that the point he was trying to make about Batman, because deep down, people have to know that Batman's mission was a suicide mission. He just hasn't explicitly talked about it yet, which I think is fine, because now we're putting it out there for the people that haven't picked up on that, and that's fine. But and then in the I Am Bane arc, we have the little he's like it wasn't a flashback with his mom. It was like something in his head. I don't remember what it was spawned from, but we articulate the relationship with his mother, and I actually really like the juxtaposition of Bane's backstory to Bruce's and how they're very similar, but they diverge at one very important point, and then it just all falls to hill. That's why I think that Tom King falls really short, because he was on a slow upward trend for me, and I thought he was doing fine, and then for me it all falls apart. You know what I mean? This isn't some I hate Tom King Batman because it's not Scott Snyder. It's just that you've proven to me that you have some grasp on the character. And then we move into, again, I think that his styles of writing become very repetitive. He feels like very much a one-trick pony that uses quirky little bits to add levity to really serious, mundane moments. And then we get more into the serious, mundane moments. We pull from classic literature, or we pull from higher elevated themes that ultimately sacrifice Batman's knowledge, Batman's continuity, Batman as a character to get there.
I disagree. I don't think he sacrificed Batman's
I
character in any way, shape, or form.
there's just a lot of small holes, you know what I mean, that like I could bring up. Like, first of all, Penguin arc, Sniper is on Alfred, right?
You're right.
You're telling me like he hasn't fortified Wayne Manor?
Without a doubt.
And then what's the impact here?
Well,
Why is
that's
it matter?
irrelevant. Of course, he's fortified Wayne Manor. So yeah,
So
okay.
then why-
fine.
then
so,
why-
So Alfred's not going to die if he gets shot,
Right,
because
so-
it's not going to go through.
So why are we?
I get it,
Why are
but-
we in a rush for Batman to cooperate with Penguin? If because the like up until the end of that issue where they pulled the trigger, Batman doesn't know that
right, he
Penguin
knows
is
on like the
contacting him.
last page, without a doubt. Yeah.
He doesn't know about the Bane
Right.
thing. All he knows about is sights on
At the
Alfred.
same time, you think Alfred sees that there's a red light on his head, which obviously is a sniper's gun, and he's going to be like, "Yeah, whatever. It's armor."
Well, no,
so we're good.
well, you're
You know,
obviously
go ahead,
you're
take a
obviously
shot.
going to have a reaction to it.
So,
But like, what is Batman's? What amount of agency does Batman have to go, like, to, you know what I mean, to rush to find Penguin, to, you know, do the whole.
Well, that wasn't the rush. That wasn't because of Alfred. He, like you said, he didn't even find out about Alfred. He didn't even know that he had his people there in Alfred. He was going to find the Penguin because he thought the Penguin. He had found out that the Penguin was the one that was setting up Mr. Freeze. So
Right.
he was going to confront the Penguin, find out what the hell's going on. Why the hell are you setting up Freeze?
I think it's just wasted.
That was
page.
the whole point, that he was going there. And then all of a sudden, see, there's the one thing I don't get. With the Penguin just goes, "Hey, you know what? Nah, no, don't kill him. Why don't you kill yourself?" And I was like, and they're like, "Okay, boss." I'm like, "Why the hell? The Penguin doesn't have like mind control powers over his underlings. Why would they sit there and say, 'Yeah, okay, we'll just kill ourselves'?" Okay, that was fine. That I thought was a lame point. What are you doing there?
But
I mean, that was all right.
The
That was interesting to read, but where was that coming
the
from?
proceedings, though, of what's going on here, again, like, it's just, I don't think, and again, you can say it's hearsay, and that's fine. The Batman that I've read,
Mhm.
that I've gotten tattooed on my arm,
Yep.
it just would not, and again, call it hearsay, say what you want, is not the same Batman that would go into Arkham, not have any plan whatsoever, like, victimize Bane, beat the shit out of him, deck Gordon, and then proceed to have a headbutting contest with Gordon, to where, again, Tom King needs a quirky scene to add levity, so he needs to take this guy's collectible bat, beat the bat signal with it, because he couldn't have done it with anything else, because Tom King. And then it's just our 10 years of friendship, at least, broken on someone getting punched. Like, Gordon knows Batman just lost his, or theoretically lost his.
So you wanted a Gordon to sit there and go, "Okay."
No, I wanted
There's the free punch.
I wanted a
Now I'm not letting you
no.
punch
I
me
wanted
again.
Gordon to say, "Get the hell out of here."
Which you did.
But I don't want Gordon to say, "Yeah, you have eyes on Batman. Bring him in."
You didn't say that.
I am pretty sure he did.
You didn't say that.
Something along those lines. Paraphrase.
He was like, he woke up the next morning, because I just read that issue
Right.
like 10 minutes before you got here. And 5 o'clock in the morning, he wakes up, he goes into, GCPD, just seeing what's going on. And then he's getting all these news stories about how Batman's going around town kicking the crap out of everybody. And then that's when he was just like, what the fuck? So that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. And that's it. Give me that bat so I can go bust the bat.
I think even under the emotional turmoil, Batman would not allow Bane to get that type of rise. I don't think that Gordon would just become that hostile towards him after that. And it's just the glory of Batman, right? Even though he has overreacted in some situations, he doesn't have any proof. Like, he doesn't have like a real inkling besides hearsay to go beat the shit out of Bane. There's nothing but hearsay. There's nothing but Penguin says he's involved. Right. I'm going to go beat the shit out of him.
Yep.
Whereas, again, bringing it back to Hush, he sees the Joker with a smoking gun right over Tommy Elliott. There's more of a foundation for that to happen. I
Bane
don't.
also broke his back. So he has a little bit of,
Batman kind of got him
pent-up
back.
angst.
Batman kind of got him back. The entirety of I Am Suicide is
It's
based on
brutal.
that.
Yeah, without doubt. No question.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I just find it to be really nonsensical and unnecessary. And again, I think that there's ways for Tom King, and I think it's sad that I'm the one to think of other ways for Tom King to eventually get to point A without.
That doesn't mean Tom King hasn't thought of himself and he's still like, yeah, whatever.
All right, so
this is a better way.
I think it's lazy. I think it's really lazy. I think that he's sacrificing any bit of prestige to the character to get to a point.
And I don't see it.
And
I
and there's no like there. I think there's an art in itself is writing in and of itself is an art, but I think there's an art in writing to regress a character, right? And I don't see it here. I think almost every bit of regression, besides, the wedding, there's reasonable regression behind it, but the wedding happening the way it did and proceeding the way it did, I think is predicated on poor writing. I don't think that Batman has like there haven't the lead up of events going into what's happening now hasn't been as impactful in the sense that it would make this level of impact on how Batman is carrying himself as it would in something else. I don't see it. I do not see it because I've seen Batman in more dire, more stressing situations that Tom King has referenced other parts of said stories.
Yep. Yes.
So it's like, they exist, that he knows, he's aware of it, but it's like, we're going to throw it out the window. I think that's even more of a burn because you're like acknowledging that this exists. And then you're like, but forget it. Again, I think that I wouldn't hate Tom King's Batman run if the entire time they're like, this is totally different continuity. Because you know what? I just don't like it. For example, for me, I usually tend to separate what I don't like and what I think is well done. I think, for example, Batman Earth 1, I don't like it, but I think it's well written. I think it's well done. I just don't like it. It's not for me.
I did not like Batman Earth 1 Volume 2. I did like the first.
But when it comes to Tom King's Batman, you have responsibilities when you're writing something in continuity. And I think that we're ignoring a lot of that to make a point, like I said, oftentimes profound, sometimes I think not.
To get there. I don't see that.
This predicating stuff should become a drinking game, isn't it?
Anytime you say predicating, you should start getting a drink out.
Also, some Okie dude says, Dark Knight, what do you hate about King's Run? AJ, his name's Pete, but what do you like about King's Run? Well, I think that's been the entirety of this conversation. So I would definitely invite you to watch this from the beginning, because I think both of us have very much stated what I don't like.
I have some other clarifying question.
Yes, Peanut Gallery.
Yes, Peanut Gallery too. So you like the two. I think the two central arguments I've gotten from here is, Trevor, you say, sorry, you
louder. Yeah, you can just speak louder.
Okay, yeah. You think that because you don't like the characterization, and because of that, you have a hard time getting into the story.
I think it's
whether or not the story is good.
It's also that there are nonsensical story points. It just there are things in the story that are too easy to pick apart. I just don't think they make sense just from a story and narrative perspective.
Characterization and plot holes, basically.
Yeah, I guess so.
And those don't bother you, or you don't agree with characters.
Some of them you've agreed with.
A couple.
I would say.
There are others that I don't.
I think the characterization is spot on. I think he gets Batman. I think he gets Batman hands down. Without a doubt, there's no question. There's no question. There's no question he gets Batman hand down.
It's not Batman.
It's totally Batman.
Peanut Gallery 1?
Peanut Gallery 1 has the other commentaries. So what I think you're finding is Tom King is writing for a different audience. He's writing for your generation versus your generation. Because your generation happens to be married, has kids, has the love interest, has seen that aspect of it. Your generation, as with mine, can't afford any of that, so we haven't gotten to that point.
Peanut Gallery 2 would like to comment up here.
Well,
One point. I think is brilliant, and that's what I actually really like about Tom King's run, is that it matures Batman in a very interesting way, and I really like the idea.
I will take that Peanut
I like
Gallery
that.
1 and 2 and forward you Batman and Robin.
Batman what?
Batman and Robin by Peter Tomasi. The entire run is regarding him building a relationship with his son and learning how to be a father.
This is no. This isn't son-father thing.
Yeah, specifically.
This is love interest. This is how you finally find your true love, and then how you lose yourself in that.
So, but my problem with that is, I think that's all brilliant, except for the fact that he screwed it up.
It's
by not getting married.
again that,
Completely screwed it up.
he's raising my main
But
point.
he's only halfway done.
But he's raising my main point here. He has a profound point to make that falls short because he doesn't execute a number of like the interworking mechanisms in a story. Characterization, plot,
I'm sorry, I get that. I disagree with that.
filler.
There's time that there's filler in every comic.
Oh, I
book.
mean, no, I mean,
There's-
again,
pick any
I will-
comic book run and you can pull
I'll
filler out.
I'll
of
praise
anything,
Scott Snyder's
without a
Batman
doubt.
run to the cows come home, and I will always
The
tell
fifth
you,
arc kind of stuff.
I will
Which one?
The fifth arc.
I will always tell you that
Please, that whole Bloom arc sucked.
I didn't hate it, but I will say that it went on way too long.
Way too long.
But again, I guess just to summarize, and you said that you think this characterization spot on, which is fine. I would almost think that with comments from Peanut Gallery 1, that where he was going was you being an older fan of Batman, that you would value continuity even more than I would. That's why I almost find this interesting, because I think that I'm looking more into Batman's continuity, his characterization leading up until now. And I mean, you clearly have the knowledge of it. I don't know if you're disregarding it. You clearly think that it's in touch. Maybe it's because...
See, when I look at it, I look at the character. I don't look at the specific story points. And continuity, okay, fine. But continuity is bred by an ongoing story arc.
Right.
History of stories. There are some stories that are great. There are some that are not so great.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there and take them all and go, well, the overall story of Batman, the character of Batman, Tom King gets. He understands Bruce Wayne, understands Batman. There is no doubt.
Let me ask you a question, and this is tying into one of my first couple of statements that I made in this debate here. So one of the things that I brought up is that between books like Year One, Long Halloween, I'd say even Grant Morrison's Batman, they were very distinctly different, but at the same time, you could tell they were the same character.
Yeah.
Because they all shared a consensus on very important aspects to who he is. What about Tom King's run?
How is that not Batman?
Shares-
How is he not Batman?
Tell me how he is.
How?
Besides him being emotionally stunted, where's the detective?
You haven't seen throughout that storyline where he is detecting. I mean, I could sit there. It'll take me a few minutes, but I'll pull out the story point where he actually does go and do detecting.
But can you tell me though, like just being like, what about this one again? Besides him being emotionally stunted, because I think we've beaten that to death.
Yep.
What about this is congruent in any way with some of those big, well-known Batman stories?
Yeah.
That all again find a level of neutrality in certain aspects of the character. What about Tom King's run for you? It finds any sort of congruency with that?
I just have to go back to the basic character of Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know, two sides, same person.
Sure. But I mean, so is he? I mean, with that,
And I just, as the character himself, he understands intimately every little aspect about Batman, Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Robin, Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, everything.
I don't think that's a good answer to my question.
And maybe not, but
because what I want to know is what about Tom King's Batman, right? Is again that finds any inkling of similarity, or
who says it has to?
It doesn't. I think
Why does it have to be similar?
it doesn't have to be similar, but there needs to be some level of neutrality that you can find common ground in these stories, right, between Tom King's Batman or Scott Snyder's or Jeff Loeb's or Frank Miller's, and say this is all the same character, all stylistically written different, but I can find, again, like I was saying, like I had mentioned earlier, you can find specific bits of the character that are fluid throughout all of them, like central parts to Batman that are fluid throughout all of them. What does Tom King have in his Batman run that's consistent with that?
He is willing to go to any length to save a life.
But so is Superman.
We're not talking about friggin' Superman. We're talking about Batman.
Right.
So, but that is consistent with his overarching theme.
So what about Scott Snyder's Batman makes you say that's Batman?
That's Batman. Yeah. He's the detective. First of all, he's intelligent. Even though his plans don't always work, for example, the Joker was a main selling point in Scott Snyder's Batman. He's not able to ultimately predict the Joker. He's forward thinking. He has a plan going into everything. We deal with the fact that Batman's emotionally stunted. We deal with the fact that Batman is, let me find a better way to put this. I mean, with that being said, that's pre-existing. But for walking through Court of Owls, the entire story is acknowledging the fact that Batman, for the most part, knows his city like the back of his hand.
Scott Snyder just retconned the whole thing.
But it makes sense.
Well, I'm not saying it didn't.
But it's
like I can't. He's not taking the whole. He's taking the whole congruity of Batman and just throwing it on its ear by saying, "Hey, here's a whole thing you never knew about Batman."
But look. But the thing is, unlike Tom King's Batman, I don't immediately read that and say, "Here's a problem in the very foundation of what you're trying to tell me here."
I don't do that either.
But here's the thing.
I just don't do that.
Me being the type of person to look for that, I couldn't find it. I still can't find it. I've reread that story a number of times, looking for more and more. That's, and again, so that's one of the major plot points. The entire story accomplishes the fact that Batman is and it's almost similar in the sense of like overarching thematics. He has the wedding, he has the rug pulled out from under him. There's a lot of emotional distress here. Yeah. He finds out that his parents might have even been like the death of his parents might have even been a result of this clandestine society that he could never solve. It's Batman building himself up from the impossible and triumphing. And it's ultimately a commentary that's consistent with Batman on how he is the very spitting image of the triumph of man. That's one, like, I think, objective thing that you can see in Scott Snyder's Batman. And that's consistent throughout his entire run. That is fundamentally Batman. I don't see that in Tom King. I don't see anything.
You're also
like
looking at Tom King's while it's still ongoing, and you're looking at Scott Snyder's that is done.
That's been a consistent thing from when I read Court of Owls, from when I was reading, like ongoingly reading Scott Snyder's Batman. I've always felt that way about it. And even then, I think that like I wasn't even as into comics back then. I didn't have the same love that I do now. Yeah. Right. So like, if
so you
anything,
didn't have a Batman tattoo.
No, I didn't. Well, wait a minute. No, I did not yet. Not yet. It's just, again, Tom King just does not have any semblance of, and again, I don't want to use the word similarity because I get it. There's strength and difference.
Yeah. And you don't want to tell the same story.
No, you don't.
Scott Snyder told.
But there should be some persisting aspects of the character that I can see. But I think they're really superficial.
Batman willing to go to any lengths to save any human life.
But I don't think that that's something that is.
You see that in the very first issue.
I don't think that that's something remotely finite. Yeah, but again, I'm saying like.
And you've seen it a myriad times since the first issue.
But I've seen it poorly executed, except for I will give you the first issue because I love it.
Yeah.
But
again, I Am Suicide. The whole point, the whole reason he goes to Santa Prisca, the whole reason is to go get Psycho Pirate. Why? To save Gotham.
Okay. Again, I said
the whole purpose. I get it. I know you said it, but it's there.
Also, with that being said, what was the necessity of that really quirky dialogue of him the whole time? I will break your damn back. the whole way. Like, if he had said it at the beginning and the end of that book, I feel like it would have been more, or the story. I'm sorry, that would have been more impactful than saying it the whole damn issue. But I don't want to get into those small things. Wrapping up, I wanted to get into the overarching things, and I think that again, I can't say it enough that they're just central things that I need in a Batman story, because what you're saying there, I think, is relevant. And again, when I brought up Superman, what I moreover meant to say that's something I think you can find in every major superhero. I don't think that's intrinsic to Batman. And so it doesn't tell me that he's getting Batman. It's telling me that you get this really basic understanding of what a superhero is. But it's not Batman. It's not something that, and that's why I brought up Superman, for example, is that point, while, existent, is negligible because it's not just
he gets the trauma of his childhood,
which we brought up though. I said that
he gets that, and that's consistent throughout the whole thing.
That one thing
he gets that.
Okay.
What else do you want to do? He gets the relationship between him and Dick Grayson. He doesn't mention it much with Damian, but he gets the relationship with Damian.
I disagree. I think that in a world where Batman has this family that he's reconnecting with, and especially like at the time, Detective Comics was a thing where he is opening himself to building the Bat Family network.
But in the history of the whole character, there have been multiple times where he has shut himself off from them.
Right, but to do that for the sake of doing it, where you have it leading up to this point, and then you go from here and you just start here, it just like it's nonsensical. It just doesn't flow plot wise. It doesn't flow development wise. It doesn't make sense for me in a world where Batman doesn't invite at least the boys, Barbara. I think it was dumb.
They just decided off the cuff, hey, let's get married now.
That's not
now.
That's just
what people can't just sit there and decide to elope. They do it all the time. People go through this big, huge, elaborate wedding plans, get all these people together and go, you know what? Do we need this? Let's just get married now. Let's just do it. Okay, let's do it. It happens. It's life. It's real.
But in a world where like we stress his relationship with Alfred,
and then
are we not?
Is Alfred?
But he's not going to bring his own son.
He brings Alfred, his son. Nobody cares about Damian anyway.
His son, who had with another woman, not with the same one.
Right.
So like because I had you with another woman, suddenly you don't matter.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. It's the fact that you're trying to do a wedding.
They're doing it off the cuff, and it's like, look, we need 2 witnesses. You bring one, I'll bring one. That was it. We only need 2 witnesses to get this done right now.
I think it's entirely.
You go get one, I'll get one.
It's entirely nonsensical. Besides the fact that it's besides the fact that his secrecy is entirely based off of an intoxicated judge.
Yeah.
But again, I think
that point aside,
which
I'll concede, yes, is a little much. Guys, he had Tom King did establish that judge earlier on in the book as the same way. So it's not like he was just a one-off judge that he pulled out.
That's still.
But still, yes, I agree.
I think that things like that, again, because I don't want to go poking at more specifics because I've done a bit of it. I think that I've seen a lot of, again, not specifically the same thing, but a lot of things of that nature where it's just like, here's a thing that needs to happen because I need to get here. Does it make sense?
Well, that's right. No. Do it all the time.
And it's bad. It's bad writing. I'll call anyone else out who does it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And again, it might just be me because
but I think he does it well. I don't think he just says, I need to get to this point. So how do I get to this point? Well, screw it. We're just going to that point. I think also, like, again, my main basis of argument is to get to this point. I'm going to take this thing. I'm going to make it this, and this, even though we know it's like this. It's, again, I just don't see Batman. I see general traits of a superhero. I see the trauma, again, which we've beaten to death, but I don't think that's enough for me. I need to see more, I don't know, like, I guess consistency to the character. You can make your points. You can do something different. You can be groundbreaking, but I just don't see Batman.
But we've gone on for quite a while. It's been like 2 hours here. I did, again, at the end of the day, we disagree, but it's fine.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The main point of making this video is that you can have discourse. We got passionate, but at the end of the day, like, we're laughing it off, having a couple of drinks, disagreeing about picture book characters. So at the end of the day, I didn't convince. Well, I think I brought some things that you thought of, and you brought some things that I have to think of. But at the end of the day, I don't think either of our opinions have changed. I don't like it.
love it.
He likes it, but
no, he loves it.
but at the end of the day, it's fine. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for hosting us and having us here. You guys need to make sure to check him out online. The link to AJ's Comics, run by Pete, is in the description, both of the Twitter, both of the website. Check out that mailing subscription service if you're one of those guys that trade weights. Again, because I've talked about many times about how that is the downfall of smaller creators.
Yeah, without doubt.
And I always stress supporting local comic book shops. Pete's a great guy. So if you got to do the mailing service, do it up. Again, free shipping. You get a subscription service discount.
10% discount.
Right. And if
everything in the store.
And if you get some absurd level of comic books, I'm sure he'd be willing to wheel and deal.
$300 or more a month, 20%.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. At the end of the day, man, thank you for sitting down.
Thank you.
Having a good conversation about it.
Anytime.
Make sure you guys check them out. Make sure you guys like this video if you enjoyed the conversation. Let us know who you thought presented the better argument. Again, there's a poll up top somewhere here, or you can let us know here in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this later. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll definitely make sure to include Pete in a couple conversations down the line. Absolutely. Whether or not we're going to be on opposite sides of the table, we'll see. But we'll definitely be including that. Again, thank you guys for watching. This is going to be Dark Knight Nation and Pete from AJ's Comics signing out.
Take it easy.
Have a good night, guys.